want to get it on recording.
Like,
I
well,
want the brilliance
I mean, it
on
was
recording.
basically like a Matt Root weekend or Matt Root Saturday. I didn't a MATTerday. I didn't. I wish I had thought of it on the day, but I didn't think of it.
MATTerday.
Yeah, a
Wow,
MATTerday.
that's so
That's pretty
good.
good, right?
Yeah,
That literally just came to me. I can't believe we've never done that before.
yeah. That's actually Mr. Nickname there. That it's taken you 20 years to come up with
I
that.
know, right? Yeah. So what I mean for the listeners, since we did our thing of starting mid-conversation, of course, when I say that I had a MATTerday, it means this past Saturday, I went to two separate beer festivals here in northern Colorado. And if you are friends with me on Untapped, for instance, like cousin Greg, and obviously Colin and Matt, then you would have seen me check in on I think at least 12 new beers, maybe 13, 14. Now, most of these were small pours, of course. But in any case, so what I went to, Weldworks did a summer market. So Weldworks, very famous brewery out of Greeley. We've talked about them before. So they did a summer market where they had like 5 or 6 famous guest breweries there. And then a few local vendors. It was like a very mini kind of farmers market thing. So it was pretty cool. But to be honest with you, and actually I was going to tell Matt about this, so I'm glad we're talking about it. you know, there were a lot of the guest brewers were doing, so they were doing just can pours, right? It was outside, and there were a lot of quote unquote sours that were available that day. However, these are the smoothie sours and
Trying
the
to warn
fruited.
you.
Yeah, and I didn't do the what was the Astra or whatever? What? No, Hydra.
Hydra. Yeah.
Yeah, who are they? Who's the Hydra series from?
Mortalis out of
Mortalis.
Rochester.
Right. So you had warned me about them, so I didn't do any of those. But one that I decided to try was a PB&J mixtape from I think Zool XUL. Matt,
Yep.
do you know about them?
Yep.
Okay.
They're either an East Coast brewery. Yep.
Yeah. So I wanted to try this one because so Yulia really loves PBJs, and I grew up with them. I don't necessarily want it in my beer, but this beer on Untapped has a 4.47. And I was like, all right, let's try it. Hopefully it's not too sweet. Hopefully there's some tartness to it.
It's all sweet.
It is all sweet. It is completely sweet. So literally we only each had like a few sips. That was all we could do. Now, like, if you want something that tastes like, okay, so here's the thing, right? For my taste nowadays, if I'm going to have a PBJ, I'm going to use natural quote unquote peanut butter. That's literally just roasted peanuts and salt, right? And I'm going to use like my dad's homemade raspberry jam, which is like the greatest jam in history, right? But if you think of this beer as like sort of the platonic ideal of American childhood PBJs, then this beer nailed it. Like, imagine really, really sweet, like Smucker's jelly, and then yeah, and like Jif sweet creamy peanut butter, which I grew up on too. That's what it was like. Like, it's the aroma was peanut butter. It was really amazing, and then the taste. I mean, it literally tasted like one of those PBJs that you would likely get if you were just at some gathering at your friend's house in the suburbs of America in the 1990s. Like, it absolutely tasted like that. So, like, credit where credit is due that they did that, but holy shit, is it sweet. Oh my God. It's just like, I don't know if they're just like throwing a fuck ton of sugar in there in addition to everything else, but.
You guys want a history lesson?
Yes.
Yeah.
So also Zool is Nashville, but not quite East Coast. Sorry, Nashville.
Nashville, okay.
The origins are murky. However, the brewery that can be traced to starting that trend is actually the Answer that we've went to in Richmond, North Carolina.
Richmond,
Virginia. Excuse me. Sorry again. Eastern states. And what the rumor was, there's a brewery out in the West Coast called Anderson Valley that makes good beer. Actually, a friend of mine used to brew there. They make a winter solstice beer that's delicious. They make a couple like weird dark beers that I really like a wild turkey beer, I think, is what I'm remembering. But they also make a really, really good couple of sours. I think it's a Goze, what it's considered, or a Goza. There's a couple different sours they make, but they're also very light and they're very low in alcohol. The rumor was that, and I don't know if this is true. I don't know if they were doing this or if they were brewing their own, but that The answer was buying kegs of these sours from Anderson Valley, having Anderson Valley brew it for them, and then just adding like a fuck ton of juice to them. And it became known as like juice bombs. And to like capitalize on that, they actually the they only sold them in crowlers, and the crowler wrap, the label on that they made look like a TNT cartoony TNT time bomb. Now that's also the case because if you don't keep those beers cold, when you add that much extra juice to it, you're adding a ton more fermentable sugars. And if you let those get warm, say by shipping it to a beer enthusiast someplace else, the sugars will start fermenting in the can and they will blow up.
Holy shit.
So that's where that came from. Juice and brew a really, really light sour, add a fuck ton of juice, that goes on, I'll tell you more in a bit, but versus, Ethan, something that you're used to, that is a traditional sour, is they are fermenting all of the sugar out of it. They don't want it to be sweet. You want a hint of the fruit. You want tart and a hint of the fruit. Or, like the 3 Fontaine bottles. We'll talk about, hey, these have 300 grams per liter of macerated cherries in there, but it doesn't taste like cherry juice because it all ferments away. Right. It was a sour beer for people who don't drink sours, and where it would supercharge it. Some other people, I mean, now most breweries have a version of this. I mean, even Other Half has a version. I think it's called Cannibal, the Cannibal series, and it's just really, really fruited sours. They also had like the crunchy series. They'd add granola, you'd add lactose, you'd add other stuff to it. But what really supercharged it and took it from like this thing that this place in Richmond was doing to kind of national prominence. There was a couple big breweries, but one was this place called 420 North in Columbus, Indiana. It was an hour from where I lived when I was in Kentucky. I went to them before they started brewing these sours. I just went there because they had catchy labels, and I thought like, oh, these are clever names, catchy label. I hated their beer. I hated everything I tried from them. I thought it was garbage. They had hazy IPAs that were not that great. A couple sours I will give them due. They're due. They did a couple beers I liked, so I can't. But if you're just judging them on an IPA, not very good. But they had cool labels, right? They had like Flintstones and Mario and Fruity Pebbles themed labels, and they have all sorts of cool designs. But they started coming out with their slushy series, SLHU, SHEE, kind of like the 7-Eleven slushy. Same thing, except they were claiming that these were 8 or 9 or 10% beers with that same juicy. The term that was coined was the dessert sour, because again it was a smoothie sour, a dessert sour, a slushy sour. It was just. I mean, literally, you can go on I think it's the Oregon Farm Growers. They sell these 5-gallon cardboard cartons with a bag inside full of just fruit puree, and you'd watch them. They brew it. You can keep the recipe the same. Just brew 7 days a week a light, shitty lactose kettle fermented sour, and then add boatloads of juice to it. Boom, you got yourself a hit. And then you can make all sorts of combinations of that. You can do crazy shit. You can add pretzels. You can add cheesecake. You can do all this stuff. But 420 North was claiming that they had these like 6, 7, 8%, and the beer community kind of got on them. I was like, no way, this doesn't seem right. These are light beers. Like, I'm drinking 6 of these and not getting drunk. Like, this isn't right. Which also 6, like that's got to be like 3 weeks worth of sugar. But so someone actually collected. Then they would release 6 or 7 different kinds every week. Like, they had big releases. People were going as early as like 10 p.m. the previous night and waiting in line in the middle of a cornfield in the middle of nowhere in Columbus, Indiana.
Jesus.
And I was not for it. I didn't like them to begin with. I didn't like what they were doing. But someone who really didn't like them grabbed 6 of their sours and sent them off for analysis, and found out that no, you were overstating your alcohol by quite a bit. You were potentially breaking laws,
Wow.
and you were very dishonest in how all of this happened. And if you think about it this way, right? Even if you brew a 5% sour, and you have 10 ounces of 5% sour, and you add an equal part, 5% alcohol by volume, excuse me, and you add an equal part by volume of juice, so you have 20 ounces now. There's no more alcohol in there, so guess what? Your 5% ABV is now 2.5 ABV. Like they released a statement, and everyone was like, "Bullshit! This is basic math. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is a joke." And so for a while, they just took it off. They wouldn't even put it on the label anymore. But yeah, it happened. It happened because there's a big brewery in Indianapolis called Sun King, which is like big regional brewery. They make a cream ale that's really, really good. They make a couple other like a Scotch ale that's really, really good. The cream ale, I think it's called like Sunlight or something. Sun something. It's very good. They had a service where smaller breweries could use their lab to test their beers. If you were an up and coming brewer and couldn't afford a big analysis rig, they would let you do it in their brewery, and that's where they got kind of found out, where people were like, "You guys are lying." Now, luckily, Sun King were nice. Sun King wasn't the one that tested them. Someone sent them in to test, but Sun King started allowing 450 North to test the beers every week, and 450 North would actually post a picture of the analysis results every week at their releases. But it got kind of ridiculous. It kind of became a joke in and of itself. But yeah, it's their sours. Like I told you, they're sours in name only.
Mhm.
It's sour because it started out as a very weak kettle soured light beer, and among, I'd say, the snobbish older brewers or the snobbish traditional brewers, even like Jackie O's, you'd see they'd release like a traditional, Berliner Weiss style beer. They wouldn't call it a Berliner Weiss; call it a Berliner Weiss style. And you'd see then they'd put, or maybe not Berliner Weiss, maybe just some of their other American wild ales. They'd put on the label like, "No kettles were soured when we made this beer," because kettle sours, you're literally just adding in the stainless steel. You're just adding a ton of lactobacillus to just start creating that lactic acid and that sour flavor. It's considered a shortcut. It's considered a very weak flavor profile. It's considered something that's really not. It's not to say that it's not something people want, right? I've had plenty of kettle soured beers that are very refreshing, but if you're trying to brew a wild ale or a sour ale, it's considered something that's just kind of like you thumb your nose at it. Go like, okay, they're cheating and that's not real. But again, I'm not knocking the style. I'm not knocking the people who like it. But it's just very interesting how that's kind of progressed. And now there's a handful of people who are known. So Mortalis has the Hydra series. There's a place in the pistol grip handle part of Maryland called RAR Brewing that has it's got a cartoon version of the Icy dog from Kmart. You remember Icy's or Slurpee? Oh, it's a dog. Mm-hmm. It's whatever the dog. Not Icy. Icy's a bear, but you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The slush puppy. Slush puppy. That's what it was. Trillium makes in like an over fruit.
Really?
It's called like daily dose or daily serving or something.
Okay.
And it's their, again, not as they're more of a traditional style. They're not the super fruited, but they have a lot of fruit in them. So you see a lot of people make them now to kind of capitalize on that market. I kind of like to tend toward a little bit more towards the traditional side. So there's a place in St. Louis, for example, called Narrow Gauge Brewing that makes the series is called Meersals, and they try and ferment it a little bit closer to fermentation or to completion. But they have like a blackberry sour or a raspberry that's very, very, very good. It's not quite like getting diabetes in a can. But again, also that's popular. That's what a lot of people liked. But yeah. So to bring it all the way around, sorry, Ethan, if you were going there for sours, I should have been more firm in my warning.
No, we weren't going there specifically for sours. We just wanted to I wanted to try some of the beers and just see what was there. But after I had kind of looked into it some more, what was offered on the can pours, it became clear to me that any of those quote unquote sours were going to be, what you were just describing. And this PBJ one, I wanted to try it just to see. I was like, because this 4.47 it's got on Untapped or whatever, it's not some new beer with only like 100 ratings. It has like a few thousand ratings or something. You know what I mean? And it was really funny because so my partner, she fucking hated it, and she was like, "This is not good. I don't. This completely invalidates Untapped for me. I don't trust any of these people. This is horrible. There's no one who could think this is genuinely good." And I'm like, "Listen, some people like it. Like there are thousands of ratings and it has a really high rating. There's a lot of people who really fucking like this beer." And I was like, if we talk to Matt, he will be able to explain it to us in a way where even if we hate it, we will maybe be able to appreciate it, which I actually don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I appreciate the history lesson, but I kind of still am like, you know what? It's okay. If you want to drink like the diabetes in a can, go for it. Have fun. But it doesn't seem like it's particularly skillful or artful from what you've
No,
described.
it's again the bigger art there is just the flavor combinations. Basically, how many can you come up? Like again, if you just look up the 420 North, or maybe it's 450 North.
Yeah, you said
Kind of
both. I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe 450 North.
Are they still in business, by the way? Are they still
Yes.
they they
Yes.
weathered that storm?
Yes.
They're okay.
Now, I mean, it's a shame because they had one of the coolest beer festivals that I've ever seen. They're in the middle of a cornfield. They have the Corn Maze Beer Festival, and they have from the upside. It's a maze, but they have 4 big circular areas where they have a bunch of brewers set up tables, and you wander the maze, get to the circular area. There's 30 brewers. You'll get your stuff. Like they did some good stuff. I'm not not going to hate on them too much, but I just I don't. So here let's share the screen. Let me share. Woo. Let's go with window. Here we go. Look at all of these. Again, this is most likely all the same beer with just different stuff added to it.
Wow.
Let's look at their March beer. Great. Oh, show me the can art. Come on. Let's see if we can zoom in here.
I like how like basically every single one of those from that month was slushy with a different Roman numeral at the end. That was the title. That was the name of the beer. Yeah.
Let's see if I can, zoom in a little bit.
Oh yeah, you were right.
Rocket,
yeah, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, look at it. It looks like the old popsicle logo. Like
yeah.
Here's
cool
they have Sub-Zero Nuggets, which actually is their IPA line, but it's Nuggets. It looks like the Fruity Pebbles font, right? Like, Mrs. Chomp, a Mrs. Pac-Man themed sour, right? High score, like very good on the marketing side.
Yeah, I was gonna say these guys are good at marketing, aren't they?
Yeah, but like, man,
yeah,
SpongeBob themed. Here you go.
That's really fun.
Like,
yeah,
but Barnacle Boy cup.
Is there a Mr. Krabs one?
Mermaid Dude cup. Krusty cake. Krabby cake.
Uh-huh.
Flying Slushman.
Those are pretty fun.
But again, if you're more known for your can artwork, here's Pokemon. Gotta catch them all.
Yeah. Okay.
So
they're really good at marketing that brewery.
So you heard me last week. I used the term Haze Bros.
Oh yeah, Haze Bros.
Yeah, which I'm being a Haze Bro tonight. Right? I'm drinking some other half hazies, but a subsidiary or a term from the same time, right? That's 450 North was a hype brewery. It was a one that everyone would line up overnight. The old money beer drinkers would kind of get disgruntled because the beer wasn't all that great, but everyone loved it and everyone wanted it. People could trade it for high amounts of things if you were confident it wouldn't blow up. It was a hype brewery. And again, if they found a niche, if they found a market, and they're in bit, like, definitely not faulting them for that. I'm just saying that's not the beer experience I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, branching off that, you did see some neat innovation, right? So there's a place, I think I brought in the first year we did 4th of July, Colin. There's a place in Michigan called Holmes Brewery that had a branch off company called Smooge that made smoothie seltzers that took the same idea, but they weren't trying to be a sour. They were just brewing a seltzer base because seltzer started out as brewed beers actually, but that you ferment to absolute completion. But they started out with a seltzer base and added smoothies to it. They were like you pour it in a glass and it would line the glass with like banana and strawberry, and it was delicious. And again, it wasn't trying to be a sour. They were very, very, very clear. Like this is just called a smoothie seltzer. It's an alcoholic, fizzy, fruity drink. Like, and they were amazing. But anyway, so what was the second place you went?
Yes. So continuing with my MATTerday. So first, okay. So we had the PBJ thingy, which was just sickeningly sweet, right? Terrible. So I learned my lesson, right? And I won't do that again. But what's interesting, so we also had an IPA from Vitamin C, Matt, SEA.
Yep, in Massachusetts. Yep,
Massachusetts, and that was tasty. That was a good one. And then
they are good.
Yeah, and so after that, I wanted, Yulia really, I brought her some WeldWorks home before, because WeldWorks does distribute a bit, right? I can find some WeldWorks 4-packs like in the grocery stores and stuff. So like she's had Juicy Bits. She really likes Juicy Bits, and I think she's had like extra Juicy Bits, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, we're here. Like, we got to try some other WeldWorks beers so you can try some, right? And so I just got some small pours, and I did, okay, so they have this one called Itsy Bits, which is like, basically what they're trying to do is pack the flavor of like a Juicy Bits beer, but with smaller ABV. It's only like 5%. Like a session. Yeah. And, they did a pretty good job, I gotta say. It wasn't as good as like the 7-8% ABV hazies that we usually have, but like it was quite good, especially, for 5%, like, if you were looking for something that's lighter, but that's still going to pack a lot of that really nice flavor, like really nice option. And then I decided to try going into it very knowingly this time. They have one called Watermelon Margarita. And I was like, okay, I'm going to expect this one to be sweet and taste like a watermelon margarita. Let's try it. And it was pretty good. It was okay. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it wasn't as grossly sweet as like that PBJ one. They're
going to be, like I said, they're going to be leaning more towards like, okay, this is still going to be a sour. We're going to add fruit to it, but it's still going to be tart. Right?
Yeah. Like that was pretty good. And then they accidentally, the guy pressed the wrong button in the computer, and so we got a third one for free, which was one I definitely would not have ordered. It's called Mango and Strawberry Cobbler. And I definitely would not have done that. However, and this was really interesting, Matt, because so like clearly based on this in like fruited sour or whatever, I was expecting that one to be just as grossly sweet. But again, this one was like way more balanced. I mean, it wasn't that tart, but it wasn't that sweet. It was actually like pretty nice. So anyway, so we tried a few WeldWorks beers. Then so that's out in Greeley, and then back home in Fort Collins, one of my favorite breweries in town so far. I think I've mentioned it on the pod. Is called Purpose Brewing, which Colin got me a gift card there, and when you guys come and visit, we'll definitely go there. It's a great place, and they do like true like funky sours there. And what they were doing is they were hosting a day of sour, and so they had like it was really cool, and they had a bunch of guest beers from I want to say 10 or so breweries from throughout Colorado, and these were all like real legit sours, lambics, goozas, whatever the fuck, however you want to say it, like actual sours, tart and funky. Delicious. And so like we got to try some of these really highly regarded Colorado breweries that I haven't had a chance to try yet. Like we had a couple from Amalgam, which is at least on Untapped, like really, really highly rated. And then there's one called like Brews or Bruz, like Bruz. And then there's what the fuck else was there? Primitive. There was a Primitive that we had. And anyways, this was definitely much more kind of like, they did 3-ounce pours and the pricing was really fair. And so we were able to try like a whole fuck ton of them. They were really good, like our style of sour. So like, that was awesome. That was a really good hang. And none of them, I would say for me, were as good as like any of the Casey beers I've had so far, or Matt, like the Hill Farmstead one that you sent me that we were just talking about. I don't think any of them were quite as good as those. There's just something about those beers. I don't know what it is exactly, but these were all like really good to excellent. Like it was really fun. So, yeah.
Good. Well, and especially like a Casey, they've been doing it for a long time. They're wild, open fermented beer. You're not going to do much better than they're out there.
Yeah.
but I'm glad you redeemed the weekend. What are you drinking now?
Oh, so what I'm drinking now. So Matt. So I just mentioned the Hill Farmstead beer that Matt sent me. So Matt sent my partner and I, or my partner and me, a housewarming package of beer, and so I'm having one of those tonight. I've had this one before, probably because of you, Matt. It's complicated being a wizard.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if you said you liked that or not, but
No,
I
it's
knew
good.
that
Yeah.
that's a solid Burlington Brewing one.
And I was
so
going to say, I'm pretty sure this is brother Jeremy's favorite brewery, unless he
Yeah.
has changed his mind since the last time we talked about it. Yeah.
Burlington's great, and
Yep.
it was fresh, so I was like, I gotta get this.
Yeah, no, this is excellent. I'll always, if you have one of these on hand and you're sending me beers, like I'll always take one of these. These are great. So
I needed to fill out the box.
yeah. But
did you try that other half one I sent you yet?
Yes, I had that one the other day, actually. Keystone Capers, right?
Yeah, so that's a collab with another Williamsport brewery named New Trail. That
it was great.
Yeah,
Good,
very good.
I thought it was delicious. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then I've tried. You sent a pale lager and a dark lager from, who are they?
Sacred Profane. So
okay,
so
those were really good too. Yeah,
there's a reason I sent them, because I know you're on the fence about lagers, right? You'll drink them if they're good.
Like the Suarez ones, like I'll drink that kind of lager. Oh yeah.
So we've talked about Rat Magnet before, which was the Instagram account by a female brewer where she basically just kind of asked, like, tell me about all the times you've been like abused or treated poorly or harassed as a female in the beer industry, and it blew up. Right? We talked about the Me Too in beer. Sacred Profane's her brewery. She opened a brewery in Maine, and so like at Human Robots Beer Festival a couple years ago, like she was there, and I was like, oh my god, it's so great to meet you. Thank you for posting all that. I can't wait to try your beer. Like I fanboyed. I was really drunk too. But they finally started. Like before today or before last week or 2 weeks ago, I had never seen it outside of Maine, and they. A beer store, not my normal beer store, got a couple cases of it. So I made my way up and bought 2 6-packs, and was really, really happy to support her. So they're a little bit different. I like the dark better than the pale, but they're Czech lagers, and they're very tasty.
I enjoyed them both. Yeah, I thought they were like, to me, they tasted like really well done lagers. Like, I enjoyed them.
Excellent brewer. I really want to go and visit her. I think she calls it a tank house, not a tap house, because they serve out of the taps are connected right to the tanks. They have serving tanks, not kegs, which is awesome. Fatheads does that as well. So you are getting the freshest. Like, let's eliminate that last step and put it right in the serving tank. Human Robot will do that with their lagers too, which is cool. So
nice.
Yeah. I was excited to see that, and I wanted to pass those along to you because I just thought I want her to keep kicking ass. And be successful. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and they were both really tasty. And then just while we're on, I think we already talked about this, maybe like texting or whatever. But so for those listening, so Matt, as a housewarming gift, also sent my partner and me 3 very special bottles of Hill Farmstead, which of course, I mean, one of the most highly acclaimed breweries in the country for years and years now, up in the Northeast Kingdom in Vermont. Right in the Northeast Kingdom,
nowhere.
where brother Jeremy went to college is
dirt road. Yeah, I was so pissed. Like, dude, you were the closest you can get there. He was like, but Jeremy, I'm still a tiny bit angry, but it's okay. It's okay. Right. You drink good beer up there.
I mean, it's
literally dirt roads.
How far? We'll have to ask him how far it is from Burlington, or maybe off the top of your head, because
hour and a half.
Okay, so that's actually not. That's pretty easy. Because I'm like, I keep telling Yulia, I'm like, I'm desperate to make a pilgrimage out to Casey. I want to go to Casey, to the actual tap room, and try like everything they have. Yep. And the town it's in, Glenwood Springs, is like one of these mountain hot springs towns. It's supposed to be really cute. It's like almost 4 hours away. Like that's, Is
it really that far from you?
Yeah, 3.5 or 4. Yeah, so it's like it's not that easy. Hour and a half, that's easy. I mean, you can decide every once in a while to fucking make a day trip and be like, hey, we're doing Hill Farmstead today. But in any case, so Matt sent us 3 bottles, and we were talking just before we started recording. We've had one of them so far, my partner and I, and one of the best beers I've ever had. It was fucking amazing. And so I'm like super excited for the next 2. I think they're all considered like Matt, actually, I was going to ask you about this. So Sean Hill copyrighted the Farmstead Ale. Yeah. And I wanted you to talk about this a little bit. Is it basically just like a wild ale that he's just branding with his own
Yes.
Yeah,
So I mean,
okay.
it's a farm ale. It's a farm ale. It's a wild ale.
So just like wild fermentation, like we've talked about.
Yeah. I mean, he's not the first to do it, but he was one of the first, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those farm ales have been done in Europe for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, right? But he trademarked it, because I thought that was actually a good move.
I think so. I was going to say to you actually that like farmstead ale, it just has a certain like ring, a certain connotation. Like it works. Yeah.
And it is an hour and a half from Burlington, 1 hour 29 minutes.
So that's
I'm
not bad.
sad that I know that off the top of my head. But yeah, he's. So I will say the other two they're plain beers.
Okay.
So they are just sour.
Yeah, one said like pale ale but farmstead ale or something, and then the other one was like wheat ale farmstead ale.
So they're a wheat and a pale wild ale or farm.
Okay.
Farm. So there's nothing crazy. No crazy flavors. You're not going to have the key lime. And the
it had like lime and blood orange. Yeah.
You're not going to have that. But it's going to be a very, very, very well done version of that style. So it's going to be like a textbook version of that style.
Yeah.
So that's what I could say about those.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful. Yeah.
Well, cheers. Congrats on the new house.
Thank you.
Linden is so close to Hill Farmstead.
Is it really that close?
I mean, let's see. Linden, Vermont, 30 minutes.
Oh man. And I'm also regretting like, when brother Jeremy was there, I was in Syracuse and Rochester, which, it's a bit of a ride, but it's not the worst thing ever. And I never went and visited. And now granted, I did not have the beer palate back then that I do now. So I don't even know that I would have been able to appreciate Hill Farmstead as much as I do now, but I'm like, God damn it. I mean, I should have just gone to visit my brother in general, but like also Hill Farmstead is only half an hour away.
Yeah. I mean, you guys dabbled though. I still remember the day I went to your place when you guys lived over in Greenwich.
What was it called, Kyle? Grenadier.
Yeah, you guys had Druid Fluid.
Druid Fluid.
Like, what the fuck?
And we both really liked it.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. This is like 2014. Like, Colin and I were mostly drinking fucking like Miller Lite and bourbon if we were like not in the mood for
like
beer.
16%.
Then we had Druid Fluid.
English barley wine. I was like, what the fuck are you guys like? Oh, this is great. Like, You guys caught me off guard that night. It's good.
We got it at the what was it called? Nichols?
Nichols. Yeah. The grocery store down in the village.
In the village.
Yep. All right, Colin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a leftover Memorial Day.
All right. The Warwick Farms.
Yep.
Good hazy brewery from the north side of the North Burbs of Philly.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Put me on the Haze Bros list.
I mean, you enjoy other beers. You're not a haze bro. You enjoy other beers, right? Like
the Haze Bros are like only drinking hazies.
They're chasing those hazies, which again is fine.
Yeah,
you drink what you like. I'm an equal opportunity beer drinker, right? You want to pound fucking PBR? I'll join you. Like I'll shotgun one with you right now. Like not gonna hold anyone in contempt for whatever they want to drink. Like drink what you want to drink. But yeah.
Now, is this also a Matt Root special since it's from Philly? Is this one that he sent to you, Kyle, or did you get it somewhere else?
I brought it down.
You brought it down for Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Nice.
He does have a box I sent down too. Have you had any of those?
We have not.
He I believe has some WeldWorks in that box.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. So I actually just when I was grabbing this one, I actually just put them in the fridge. So
yeah, there's a WeldWorks beer in there and a Hudson Valley beer in there. So
nice.
Both highly rated. That WeldWorks beer was fucking delicious. The guy at the beer store was like, "That's supposed to be really special," and I was like, "Oh, take a look at it." And I got home and I tried it, and I loved it. So. There's something unicorn something, Ethan. Double unicorn something.
Okay. Was it IPA or
something? The double IPA.
Okay. Because WeldWorks is also like, aren't they really well known for their stouts, like their barrel aged stouts and shit?
Yes, their Media Noche series is like very, very famous, highly acclaimed.
If I ever get that taste back, I'll start collecting those, and I can also send them to you guys.
Beware. I mean, they are expensive. So like, their Vanilla Ride Medium Noche made it out here to my beer store, and they were charging. I think they were asking $39 for a half-liter bottle. So I mean,
wow.
they're probably. I saw it and went, "Ooh, that looks great," and then I saw the price and went, "Maybe some other time."
Yeah, not quite worth it.
Yeah. I'd rather try a couple other beers. So
yeah,
I'm about to finish my first.
Yeah, what are you having?
But I have another one lined up. So unfortunately, I was not able to go to this event this past weekend that I need to get back. I have not gone since pre-injury, but other half had Green City this weekend.
Oh, right.
And so other half has had, and they haven't done the other one. They haven't done Pastry Town in a couple of years, but they do. They have two main festivals, Green City and Pastry Town, and as you can probably tell by Pastry Town, it's a celebration of pastry stouts and pastry sours. And Green City is a celebration of everything hoppy. And now they're not super exclusive. Like the breweries can bring an IPA to Pastry Town, or they can bring a stout to Green City. But like the main theme is like, you're here because you brew great blank. Like, Mortalis, you are at Pastry Town because your barrel-aged Pear Lido is considered one of the best stout, barrel-aged beers that came out in the last 5 years. Like, yes, we want you here. So awesome festival. I missed it, unfortunately. And the other thing I love is they will have like 4 or 5 lager breweries there too. Just like Human Robot, come down, like bring some lagers. Like, we like you, come here.
Yeah.
But and they're usually a nice, like, there's never lines there. So if you need to like cleanse your palate, go get a little pour of lager and relax.
Yeah, nice crisp one. Now, Matt, real quick, Human Robot, are they only? I know we went. Are they only in downtown Philly, or are they?
They've got 4 locations around Philadelphia.
4 now. Wow. Okay.
Yep. Jenkintown, downtown, Schuylkill Banks on the west side, and South Philly. They cover all the burbs.
Okay.
So
okay.
I don't know if they're going to keep expanding. It might be kind of it. They might. I think they said that's kind of the footprint they want. So, but yeah. So they released a beer box of all of the special beers they brewed for Green City this year. They're all like broccoli themed beers, but they're themed after each of their 6 locations. So this is Brooklyn Bustle for their Brooklyn. It's a triple, and it's delicious.
And that's the OG location, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the OG. But then my next beer lined up is just a regular 6% IPA called Fabulous Falls for their Buffalo location.
Okay.
So for those of you who know, they've got Brooklyn, they've got Rockefeller Center in Manhattan, they've got Rochester, Canandaigua, they've got Philadelphia, they've got Buffalo, they've got DC, and opening maybe next year, I don't know exactly when, is Chicago.
Wow, holy shit, half. Damn, they're really getting after it.
Well, they are following a different model, and I hope they continue to do so. These beers are incredibly hard to scale up.
Right. I remember we've talked a little bit about this before.
It's hard to get this profile if it's very difficult to, like, Trillium did it, Treehouse did it. It took them a boatload of time. Like, Treehouse basically experimented for a year before they got it right.
Yeah.
And Trillium did the same thing. Trillium had, instead of the Curiosity series, Trillium had the Scaled series where they were literally like, hey, this is just an experiment. We think we got it. So other half is not, I mean, they still have big breweries, but they're not trying to become massive. Instead, they are growing their footprint and growing where they can brew more beers. So,
cool.
I hope they're successful. I hope they keep doing it. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Seriously.
Now, one last thing on the beer train. We spent 40 minutes on beer, so I'm sorry, guys.
I mean, I'm enjoying it. I don't know. I haven't gotten any feedback. I'll have to ask Brother Jeremy, and we'll have to have Cousin Greg tell us. And Brother Danny. I think Brother Danny still listens. If they enjoy the beer talk as much as the baseball talk, or if it's all equally bad, I don't know. We'll have to.
I mean, equally wonderful, I think is what you meant to say. Sam was actually trying to convince me to become a TikTok beer influencer.
I mean, your beer knowledge is like, and the way you talk about it, it is impressive.
Yeah, dude, you would crush it.
So and
make your faces, like the way your face is shaped and the faces you make, like I'm saying, you could probably go viral with the right combination of faces and stuff you say. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Well, so Ethan, we've talked about it before, and I'm sorry that this is going to kind of burn you a little bit.
That's okay.
Do you remember the word snallygaster?
I remember the word, but I cannot remember the context
It
at
is
all.
the premier East Coast beer festival, and it is in Washington, D.C.
Oh, no. And I
I've
thought
wanted,
about going one time and never went, I think.
I've wanted to go since I lived in Kentucky. Like, and, it's the same day as the Great American Beer Fest, but they get all the heavy hitters. Like, they get an incredible list. So,
Oh,
like, I
man.
was just looking at last year's list, which Hill Farmstead doesn't do festivals. They'll be there. You know, pick a Floodland, which is like the Hill Farmstead of Washington State, like crazy weirdo owner, savant brewer of wild ales. I've got 2 Floodland beers in my basement that I'm waiting to try with you. Like Floodland's there, which is amazing because that's not normal. Like Fidens is there, Evil Twin is there, Equilibrium is there, Alchemist goes, Cantillon goes, like Cycle goes and has their big beer. Like it is insane who they get there. It's and I don't know if it's because, of course, other half is there. It's because DC's got kind of some loopholes about shipping beer in I don't know if that's what enables it, but they have just an insane list.
Wow.
I mean, Jay Wakefield Miami Madness. Oh, that is a sour that you need to try. It's a fruited sour. It tastes so good.
Okay.
Human Robots there. Humble Sea, which is like a really, really, really good stout and IPA brewer in on the West Coast outside of just north of Monterey and Santa Clara, one of those two. Sorry. Hop Butcher is there. Holmes is there. Like everyone goes, and I've missed it for one reason or another every year. And this year it's like sandwiched in between like a stand-up show that I have tickets for on Friday night and a wedding on Sunday. And I texting Sam like, hey, do you think we can do this? Like, I know this sounds crazy and I don't have the budget for it yet, but do you think we can do it? Because I'm going to buy VIP tickets. Like, I'm going to be there early and I'm going to be trying to get as many of these damn beers as I can get. So,
right.
Trillium, Tripping Animals, the Tilquin, the Timber Beer Project, the Seed, the Veil, the Answer, the Alchemist, Suarez. Man.
Holy shit. Okay. So I had no idea. Yeah. How good. Yeah.
Sapwood. Ooh, Sapwood and Sarah. Sarah's going to be there.
I feel like you've sent me/us some sapwood before. I don't know.
At one point they were outside of Baltimore.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
They were on my list. I always wanted to go and I never ended up making it there. I don't think. I don't think you and I went.
No. We went to that other beer. We went to the place that cousin Greg recommended that had the Diglett themed beer.
Okay. In like Baltimore before we went to the game, right?
Oh, well, this was outside. Baltimore went to Wet City.
Wet City, okay.
Remember we got sandwiches there?
That's right.
Good beers, sandwiches. Yeah.
Yep.
But they opened at 5, so we only had like an hour to like cram our face with the food and then drive to the parking garage so we could do our parking garage beers.
Yeah, that's right, garage beers, of course. Yeah. A cherished tradition, and I hate traditions, but yep.
But if there's one, that's it.
That's exactly.
So anyway, that's like I'm trying to. They do it right downtown, like in view of the Capitol. I really want to try to make it happen. Tickets go on sale in like a week and a half.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping my schedule has a little bit more clarity by then, and we can figure out how to make it. And I also got to figure out my budget and figure out if I can afford a hotel. And
right.
But
man, nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Do we want to talk baseball at all this evening?
The biggest thing we got to talk about, I know you guys really, really want to talk about it now. It was all over the news. There was a giant article written about exposing this former player. He won like Defensive Player of the Year and the scoring title, I think, in the same year, MVP. Michael Jordan. There was an interesting article, and I got about halfway through before I got distracted last week. Talking about homerism for official scorers in the 1990s.
Oh, I didn't see this.
Yes.
And it did a statistical analysis of steals and rebounds and assists in home versus away games. And the year that Jordan won Defensive Player of the Year and it was either MVP or the scoring title, I can't remember, which he's the only person to ever do that. And they're talking about like how like LeBron may be chasing a ghost, because if you look at the official scores back then, he got such like an enormous boost at home, like standard deviations more than what other homers would normally get at home. So it was an interesting look back at that. Right, they're not going to change it, but it was one of those like, holy crap! Like when you're averaging more than double the steals at home than you did, or blocks. His blocks somehow for a 6'3" guard, he was like 4th in the league in blocks per game or something. Like just ridiculous.
Wow.
And it was because like they even interviewed a couple of official scorers, including one guy who was like brand new to the profession, and going to a meeting of all official scorers in the league, and like, well, hey, we're here, bright eyed bushy tail, we're here to be the most accurate guys you can be, right? And like some of the old guys be like, nah, like you do what you can for your guys when you're at home, like basically being told like, shut the fuck up, kid, like support the guys who play for you or something like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so it was interesting to say the least.
That's wild. I saw a Scottie Pippen quote. It must have been related to this. I saw a Scottie Pippen quote where it was talking about how like he was saying that he would often be the one to like smack the ball out of the opposing player's hands, but Jordan would be the one to grab it. And so Jordan would always get credit for the steal. And he was like, and I, basically I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact quote, but he was like, don't you think it should be the person who, gets the ball loose in the first, like he was saying he should have gotten the credit, not Jordan. Right. Yeah. And I wonder if it was related to this, but I didn't see about that. That's so interesting.
Well, and the other like good example that I read in the half of the article I read brought up because like an assist needs to be like I forget the wording, but like materially beneficial to the score or something, or materially associated with the score, meaning like I can't pass Colin the ball and have Colin dribble around for 28 seconds of the shot clock and then shoot, be like, it's an assist. Like no, like I didn't do shit. Right. But they were talking about Stockton, and like the guy was reviewing highlights, and like that's not an assist. Like Malone did 7 moves in the paint before he scored. They'd be like, nope, it's Stockton, it's an assist. Wow. And it's like, oh shit, like that's really subjective. Same
that's
with
so
like,
interesting.
For blocks, they were talking about like, oh well, Michael was in his face. Did the ball fall short? Was it an air ball that fell short of the rim? That must have been a block. Like must have been a block. Like just mark it. Game goes on.
Man.
So they did a video analysis of a lot of games too to confirm what their suspicions were, and they're like, "Ooh, yeah, some of these are bad."
Fucking wild.
So every time you hear, like, "Oh, the players today couldn't exist in the NBA back then," like, no, fuck you, like, no, shut up.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Mickey Mantle probably would.
They didn't have the video footage though.
Yeah,
like Wilt's 100-point game, for example, or all of Ruth's home runs.
Yeah.
And everything. It's like, how many of those went foul?
Yeah.
Or how many of them went fair and didn't get called right? And they had the weird rule where it would like, if it bounced like before the grounds rule double became a thing or something, it was a homer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like a really weird rule early in Ruth's career. I can't remember it exactly, but
right.
Rules change, technology helps. It's like we were talking about with all the umpires and everything. Yeah. Like, I'm Michael Jordan is obviously incredible. Will is obviously incredible.
Yeah, that's not taking it away, right? But
yeah, but you can also like say, they probably got a little bit of help from their buddies.
Yeah,
let's talk about like the media covered players back then. They wouldn't like ever talk about their indiscretions and.
Well, so that's what I was getting through with Reeton. I just finished Jim Bouton's Ball 4.
Yeah, Ball 4, right? Yeah,
and the Mantle stuff, talking about that, like he's like, I said that he likes to drink, like that wasn't a secret, but I was crucified for it. And he went through, he did a couple, like the version I had a couple. He had like Ball 5, 6, 7, like. He basically wrote updates every 10 years after the book. And he talked about, he left Mantle a message after his son died, just saying, like, I'm sorry. And, just a couple things, and I hope there's no ill will. And then Mantle, after Bouton's daughter died, did the same thing. Like, called him, left a message on the recording saying, like, hey, You know, I'm not mad at you. I'm sorry you're grieving, and all that horseshit about you not being invited to Old Timers Day because someone said I would boycott is a bunch of horseshit. Like, I never said that. I don't mind the book. I hope you're doing well. And like Boughton says, like, I'm keeping that tape because it meant so much to him.
Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
How did Boughton's daughter die?
Car accident.
Oh shit!
Man.
Yeah, his youngest died in a car accident on New Jersey highway. Stopped for an accident. She stopped because there was an accident in front of her, and the person behind her didn't stop at all. Just barreled into her.
Ah,
Damn.
So
No seatbelt.
probably not then. Well, it was '90s, so maybe.
Yeah. Oh wow! So close to the end for Mickey.
Yeah. Yeah. Boughton said later it amounted to what was a deathbed confession. Like, he died very shortly after. But he said that when he left Mickey a message, he didn't think much of it. But having been on the receiving end, when his own daughter died, feeling that much closer to everyone around him. So he's like, I understand him, and it means a lot. And, unfortunately, only select people will understand how this feels. But it was heartwarming, as sad as it was. But anyway, I don't know. I just veered off to another place. Anyway, what do you guys want to talk about? I transition like Metallica. You're going to go from ballad right to like there is no segue. There is no nice flow. It's just let's start the power chords.
Just do it.
The greatest baseball player of all time passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all agree that he's the greatest ever. It's funny. I think there are still a lot of people who just based on like comment sections and stuff and posts on the internet that I saw over the last couple of weeks. I think that there are people who maybe don't necessarily think that. They're just like, oh yeah, one of the greats, blah blah blah. And it's like, he's not one of the greats. Like he's the best, and
he did everything well.
He did everything. I mean, the must read, and I don't know if it's blocked behind the subscription paywall, but Colin and I obviously are both huge Joe Paz fans and subscribe to his Substack and everything. So Joe Paz, a number of years ago, friend of the podcast, Joe Poznansky, he wrote a piece called "The Willie Mays Hall of Fame." And it is a must read for any like serious baseball fan. But it's very funny, and I won't go into it now because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who may end up reading it. But yeah, the point is that like nobody was Willie. Nobody did every facet of the game at that high of a level. Like we talk about five-tool great players and everything like this, and there are a few who have existed throughout history and things like this, but nobody who was as good as Willie at every single thing and who did it for as long of a time as him. I mean, it's just when you go and you look at his baseball reference page and you read stories about him and you hear these, because obviously the defensive stats from the 50s and the 60s are sort of suspect at best, right? But you read these stories about his defensive prowess and about his speed and everything, and it's just, and then you look at his baseball reference page. I mean, it's just absolutely like mind-bogglingly incredible. I mean, he's the GOAT. Absolutely.
In Ball 4, Boughton talks about him and his brother building a big net and sneaking it into the Polo Grounds because they wanted to try and catch balls from Willie Mays.
Yeah.
And then about how, years later he got to pitch. He actually got to face him in a couple games. And, Boughton was starstruck and said, "Hey, Willie, I used to pretend I was you and my brother and I would play in the streets." And he was like, "You calling me old?" Like, basically, like, "Oh, thanks for calling me old." Like,
right, yeah.
And then proceeded to, still get like 6 hits. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
And to think that Willie missed, 2 seasons at the very least.
To the war.
For the war service, Korean War.
Yep.
And that was early in his career. There's a lot of players like that. Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, to name a couple. But yeah, that was.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together because there was a couple articles that came out after they incorporated the Negro League stats to MLB stats And there was just like, oh, Willie May said it's great that he got like 12 more hits overnight added to his stats, but that he wasn't going to be appearing at um, the Memorial game that they just had.
That Rickwood Field in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't read the article, but I didn't think anything of it. And it turns out it sounds like he would have been there, but he was just not in great health, which is sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like pretty blind for a handful of years at least, and everything. But yeah, hell of a player, hell of a legacy.
Yeah.
Him and Bonds. I mean, how about fucking Reggie Jackson?
Oh my God, yeah. The
him.
interview live on Fox. It was on Fox, I think, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
Live on Fox. So Matt, did you see this clip yet?
No.
So okay,
oh, boy.
So I don't remember. I didn't actually hear the exact question, but essentially the question was asking Reggie.
A-Rod asked him.
A-Rod asked about his experience, like playing, like I think in Birmingham specifically, but just maybe throughout the South in the late '60s. Yeah.
Yeah, he played in Birmingham in '67.
Yeah,
I think it was
like
before he got called
up. Yeah, like playing in the South. Now, everyone needs to remember that in 67, 66, 65, I mean, racial unrest in this country was
very tumultuous.
It was fucking horrible. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the height of the civil rights movement. Terrible. I mean, the South is still being governed by Jim Crow laws at that point. The Voting Rights Act, that was passed in 68, I want to say.
66.
66. Okay.
I think.
Regardless, 67 still nasty for black people, for non-white, any non-white person, right? Now, it's amazing. Everyone should go and watch the clip. I'm sure if you just Google Reggie Jackson, Rickwood Field interview or something along those lines, you'll see it.
You can find the full unedited version too.
And he says the N-word multiple times, talking about what people would like yell at him. Like this is 1967. He's playing that would have been what, AAA, Kyle? Or was he already with Oakland at the time? I don't know.
No. It was the whatever right before he got called up.
Yeah, it was. Okay. But like he was like traveling around and people are like yelling the N-word at him, and he was not allowed to go to the restaurant or the same hotel or whatever with the rest of the team. And I don't want to start like quoting too much of it. Everyone should just really go and watch it. But it was very powerful, very powerful. And I thought it was amazing that, like, I mean, I guess it was live, but like the fact that Fox has allowed it to sort of disseminate and to remain uncensored and everything, it's really quite incredible. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, so. I mean, it was just the coincidental timing, obviously, that Willie passed, and I think maybe that opens the door for somebody like a Reggie Jackson, who's kind of that next generation, right, to hold up the especially with, as we know, the number of black players in Major League Baseball just keeps declining, and the opportunities and the equity it's just not there and everything. And for Reggie, who definitely was the straw that stirred the drink during his playing career, he's not, I don't think people kind of look at him that way these days.
Nah.
He's a late 70s, early 80-year-old grandpa.
Yeah.
Whatever. And I don't think A-Rod or anyone on Fox thought that he was going to say the things that he said.
Yeah.
When he asked them that question, they probably thought he was just going to say, oh yeah, I enjoyed my time here. There's a lot of, history, yada, yada, and la-di-da. And
yeah,
no, it ended up being a real conversation, which is Reggie is right. Reggie's not always been on the right side of history, as we know, but in this case, like, the way that I think you need to continue to talk, because we talk about this all the time, like baseball, much like white people in general, we like to whitewash things and just be like, it wasn't as bad as people say it was, or whatever, or we did good because Jackie Robinson integrated the game and we were the first sport to do it, and that's great. But it's not. It doesn't tell the full story. For like Reggie to come out and say that, I think it empowers his generation now, and generations after that, like people we saw, Jeter and Curtis Granderson and CeCe and all those guys, to just say like, no, we're gonna keep talking about this shit because it's important and it matters, and people need to be educated on it. They can't forget why there was a fucking Negro Leagues to begin with.
Yep.
Institutional racism,
Absolutely.
warranted the fact that we needed to have two separate major leagues, and that's pretty sad indictment on America. But
and that was 20 years after Jackie integrated. You know what I mean?
Right.
1967, and that's the thing too, is right. Like we think now, okay, we're in 2024, and so I'm sure, especially for like very young people, 67 seems so long ago. But when us three were growing up and like listening to classic rock music and everything, the late 60s didn't seem that long ago at all. And really, in the grand scheme of things, they're not. And the thing, so like Reggie, he's an older grandpa now, but like he's not that old. He is still absolutely totally with it. He's sharp. He is still like an active professional. I mean, I think he works with the Astros organization and stuff. Like, and he is sitting here and telling these like very vivid stories of this shit that happened. And it's like, it's just a really good reminder that, 67 may seem a long time ago now because it's 2024, but
it's not
that long ago. I mean, it is it is a very clear memory for many, many, many people, so like a really important reminder.
It's quote unquote so short ago, for lack of a better phrase, that Ethel Kennedy, as of this recording, is still alive. The wife of Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah,
to have seen all the things that she saw in her lifetime, or even just in the 60s alone.
Yep.
To have it happen to her brother-in-law and to her husband.
Yeah.
And to be alive in 2024 and to have gone through everything since then.
Like, she's 96. How about that? Wow.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
Yeah. But nuts. Okay, on a I'm going to change the subject unless you guys have anything else to say on that. A slightly lighter topic. But still a little bit dark. Giancarlo Stanton is on the IL again. 4 weeks at least with a torn, strained hamstring?
Hamstring.
Yeah, and it's June 24th, so I think we have to give him some credit. He made it all the way to June 24th, so props to G for that. And, like we've talked about, he's been hitting pretty decently this year. He's been doing, about what I think could have reasonably hoped for. But I have to say I'm pretty bummed. I mean, I know a few days ago they mentioned, G's going to get checked out. There's some tightness in the hamstring. He's going to go for further testing. And then it was like, oh, it's a strain. Booney described it as mild, and it's still fucking 4 weeks. And I'm like, well, goddamn, I mean, it is what it is, right? It's like, as much as we shat on Cashman for this, because I still think he went about it the wrong way over the offseason, but it's part of G's game now, it just, it is what it is.
But it's exactly what we said on the last podcast, before. And I texted you guys. I mean, we were literally a centimeter away from losing G, Dominguez, and Judge within days of each other.
Exactly.
And somehow Judge avoided the Mookie Betts injury.
I know. Thank Christ. Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, just baseball in general has been decimated.
Terrible.
Stars getting injured this year.
Molly Knight wrote about that the other day. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Really depressing.
Oh, yeah. I did see that. Yeah.
Super depressing. Just not good for the game. And I mean, granted, with like Mookie or with what almost happened to Judge, like that's a, that's kind of a fluke. Yeah. Like it's, it's just, it's just a chance thing or whatever. But there's definitely a big issue. And Joe Paz has written about this as well. I mean, with the pitcher injuries and all of the elbows exploding, that's really, really scary. I mean, it's only, I don't want to be this guy, right? Everybody in baseball is really excited about Paul Skeens. I don't know if we've talked about him that much on the pod, but like everybody in baseball, including us three, I'm sure, is very excited about him.
Wait, you mean Libby Dune's boyfriend? Or girlfriend?
That's right. Boyfriend. Yeah. That's right. Is it Dune or Dunn? I always assumed it was Dunn, but Livy Dunn's boyfriend, exactly. But like, he's got incredible stuff. I mean, it's amazing to watch. it's only a matter of time before he's getting Tommy
Yeah.
John. Same with Mason Miller. The
I say Mason Miller's one that I think like, oh
all of these
no,
guys.
please take care of your elbow, please.
It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. And so the pitcher, well, we can talk about that on a different episode, but like that's a whole thing, the pitcher thing. But Kyle, no, absolutely right. And remind me, so Dominguez, I know we were texting about this. What
Oblique,
and he's out for
8 weeks minimum.
Jesus.
Yeah, so like you had said, September call
up, exactly. Yeah, I remember saying that, and I just couldn't remember the injury. If we're lucky, he's a September call up. But like at that point, I mean, it could if things don't go well, if things don't recover the way they hope. I mean, his season could be done.
Yeah,
and so depressing.
I mean, we've seen that with Judge and with G. Oblique injuries are not. I feel the G hamstring injury, even though G is more prone to injury, quote unquote prone, it seems like it's something he could come back and still produce the way he did the first 2.5 months of this season and everything. But yeah, it's like Jason was already working back from Tommy John surgery and everything. Like this might just end up being a lost year, which really sucks. But,
really sucks.
It's what it is. But yeah, I mean, the good thing, maybe we can do this next time. One of the things I've been trying to do, so it is a real bummer that so many players have gotten hurt, big name players.
Strider, Acuna.
Yeah, and things like that.
Trouty, of course.
One of the things I have tried to do with my Yard Barker columns, so I'm a regular contributor now to Yard Barker.
Check it out, everyone.
Yeah, Jackson Merrill piece from I read it today. Yeah, it was cool.
So I did.
Great Stephen Kwan piece earlier this week.
Yep. That's right.
Guardians.
Yeah.
Beat the fucking Orioles.
Cleveland Matt, there he is.
So the Stephen Kwan article was actually super fun because that was with the editor's desk while the game, like that day, had started because they were playing a day game. And so I wrote it in the morning, and then it was with the editor's desk, and he had gotten a hit. So he was at 397 to start the game. He had gotten a hit to go right at 400. And then he got out in the next at bat to go to 398. He's at 390 right now.
How many more at bats does he need to qualify?
He's just about there now, I think, right?
Or something.
Yeah. 15.
As long as he doesn't get hurt again, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
So he's been 389, 1020 OPS this year. So pretty incredible. But anyway, the Jackson Merrill article I wrote today. Joey Ortiz of the Milwaukee Brewers. Bobby Witt Jr.,
Jurickson Profar, who I think you mentioned in your Merrill column.
Yeah,
which is a really interesting story.
There's a lot of Gunnar Henderson. There's a lot of young talent out there, which is great for the game. And hopefully these guys can stay healthy and like really, just continue to mash and pitch well and do whatever. But maybe we can highlight some of these guys next time to take away from the gloom a little bit, because I feel like we're not even in July yet, and we've lost a significant amount of big time players. Like the dog days of August haven't come around,
right?
And,
exactly.
That Skeens, just to top that off. I don't know if you guys saw this in his start yesterday or the day before. 7th inning, I think it was. His last pitch of the game was like 102 miles per hour.
I saw that, yeah.
And he looked back at the scoreboard to see what the mile per hour was on the pitch, and he just smiles and whatever. Like, it is so cool, to think that you could throw that hard for that long, but man, your elbow is going to blow.
That's what I'm thinking. It's not natural, right? I mean,
like I don't know how Nolan Ryan did it, and Nolan Ryan's he wasn't throwing 100, but
the thing is
close,
like,
right?
Well, I remember that. So I'll have to try to find it. I think Joe Paz wrote about this. There were some studies done that were trying to approximate how hard Nolan Ryan was throwing at his very, very hardest. Now, radar technology, the radar guns back like in the 60s, 70s, not obviously as good as today, but there was some like pretty rigorous study done. And it was estimating that at his hardest, he was throwing like 108. That was maybe like the fastest pitch he ever threw, was like 108 miles per hour. So what I wonder is if like he's just a freak of nature. If like he actually was like, we don't have the technology to know for sure, but if he actually was throwing like 100 to 105 on the reg for however many thousands of innings he pitched. So, maybe he is just that, like that,
He's the exception
that
to the
freak. He's
rule.
the exception to the rule. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But I do remember reading some piece that was talking about that, where they were estimating, at least at his hardest, that he was throwing that fast. Now, granted, maybe in the run of the mill games, or when he was, most of the time, maybe he was not doing max effort, and so for him, maybe that meant 95 to 100, and then the max effort was 100 up to 108 or whatever. But pretty fascinating to contemplate for sure. I mean, you think about like, we should do a separate Nolan Ryan appreciation someday. Joe Paz wrote an amazing essay about him in the Baseball 100. I think it was in the Baseball 100. How many no hitters did he throw? You guys, 7 was it?
7, I think.
I thought 7 or 9.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think anybody has. Right. I don't think anybody is even close to that. And so now he has like the most walks in history by far. But then you learn about like the no hitters and everything, and it's like, wow, when this guy was on
7.
Yeah, so it's okay. So like when he was on, he was as dominant and as literally unhittable as anyone in history.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible to consider. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, just to throw this out there, though, if Nolan Ryan could be as dominant, and you guys are going to hate me for this.
Valid.
If he can be as dominant into his, or at least effective and still striking out 300 people in his age 42 season, if he can do that, why can't Randy?
No. See, he pitched in the 90s.
Why can't Randy?
I would totally buy the fact that he indulged in some type of
PEDs.
Maybe not a steroid, but some type of performance enhancing drug.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Nolan led the league in WHIP in 1991 in his age 44 season.
Wow. Yeah. Incredible. Yeah.
And hits per 9 and strikeouts per 9.
And
wow.
The biggest difference is the ballparks were bigger and the hitters were much worse, much suppressed.
Yeah. So
at that time.
So Boughton talked about that too, about like he doesn't like the tiny ballparks now, like not just because he's a pitcher, but whereas when Yankee Stadium was 400 plus to left center, right?
Right.
By the time Randy was doing all that, the steroids were full blown in, and the new ballparks were all in.
But that means his competition had it easier then, and he still was dominating.
Yeah, well, it's like anything else. I mean, sometimes people just do things better. You were just talking about how you broke down that test, and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, I never thought about a test that way ever before.
You've never thought about a test that way?
No.
Oh, come on. Like, that's the first thing you do. Like, if there's 60 questions and I only need to get a 70%, that means there's 18 questions I can get wrong and I'm still okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought about it like that either.
Oh, so if I end the test and there's only 15 that I'm worried about, I'm pretty sure I passed.
Yeah.
So the next thing is, okay, I'm going to go spend another 20 minutes in the remaining 15 and, go through there. But really, if it's just get a 70 and you're okay, then I felt pretty good. I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. Like, I got this shit.
And that proves my point that there are some people who are better at taking steroids than others. But I would never say that Nolan Ryan did not take steroids. I think there is a legit chance that he did.
Yeah, going into I was just looking. I think his last year was 93,
60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
66 to 93. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
now,
sure he was doing something.
Was 3 innings, right? He pitched 3 innings in 1966 as a 19-year-old. So
still, he was on the Miracle Mets in 1969. And then still pitching for the Rangers in 94 or whatever.
Yeah.
93.
That's a pretty insane career. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Rangers weren't even around then when he was on the Mets.
Man, He led the league with a 1.69 ERA in 1981. I guess he must have been hurt because he only pitched 149 innings.
Well, 81 was also a shortened season. Yeah.
Okay, well, so his ERA plus was the best in the league. His ERA was the best in the league. His home runs and hits per 9 were best in the league, and he only came in 4th in Cy Young voting.
Yeah. Well, he probably didn't have a great win-loss record, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Right, because back then that was still the biggest thing.
Now, who did win that? Oh, okay. NL Cy Young voting. Okay, Fernando Valenzuela.
I was going to say, was that Fernando Mania? Yeah, I thought it was 81. Yep.
8 shutouts. That
is pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, that's hard to beat.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers won the World Series.
And Fernando had more strikeouts than Nolan did that year.
Yeah. One more thing to say real quickly on this, we're joking a little bit about like Nolan's late career and Randy's late career and steroids and PEDs and blah blah blah. I think we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but just as like kind of a final bow, like to put on it, I'm perfect, me personally as a fan, and I think you guys are somewhat similar. I know a lot of baseball fans are not like this, but me personally, I am perfectly fine with embracing, what Barry Bonds did in his late 30s and what Randy Johnson did in his late 30s. And just saying that this was a very specific era, that like in the steroid era, this happened. And granted, the other thing we have to always mention is like everybody had access to these things. And I still argue that pretty much everyone was partaking in some way or another. And still, Randy and Barry are the only people who dominated the game the way that they did, from like, for Randy, what was it, 98 to 02, and then for Barry, like 01 to 04, those like specific 4-year stretches. Everybody was fucking doing something at that time. Those guys, even in their late 30s, still did what they did. So there is still a certain amount of respect, I think, that goes into that. But just in general, like, whenever you're looking at history, whether it's in baseball or any sort of history, it's all about like specific context and nuance. You can't just like pick random shit out and just be like, blah, 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 blah. Like the context is everything. And so the steroid era is what it is, and let's just embrace it and talk about it as that.
Do you think Maddux did steroids?
I bet that he did something.
Performance enhancing.
Something. Yeah. Whatever was
100%.
HGH, if it just made, the idea to make you recover quicker, I'm sure he did something. Now, his style of play was not such that it was really reflected as much. He was never the dominating, overpowering person like Randy. But if you're a baseball player in the 90s, I bet you did something that is considered illegal by official MLB rules in 2024, including Maddux, including Derek.
That could also be an amphetamine, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah.
So however you want to define PEDs or whatever, that's part of the problem with this, right? Is it's all still so murky. But yeah, I would bet Maddux did something. Yeah.
One of the big factors I always look at is you think about, okay, so weightlifting didn't just start like now, right? Like players aren't bigger now. Weightlifting has been around forever. Well, in our lifetime at least. But you look at the longevity and you look at the lack of injuries that players had during, the 90s and the early 2000s. Like, to me, that is a big signal for some type of PED to help them with the recovery, to help them, stay fresh throughout. Yeah.
But remember, before the recent time, like, players were told not to lift weights because you become muscle bound.
Right, too bulky, right, and you can't move as well. Yeah.
So back there was a point where weightlifting was considered like a taboo.
Yeah, but I'm saying in our lifetime, it's been around the entire time.
Yeah.
So like, I just don't buy the fact that, I think about those dynasty teams all the time, and I'm like, those guys never missed any time. The Knoblauchs, the Jeter, no one wants to say Derek Jeter took steroids, but whatever. Tino, Bernie was the one who was hurt all the time, so maybe Bernie wasn't indulging, and everything. But like,
even Bernie, though, I'm looking not that bad for Bernie, not that bad.
But they say steroids, with the increased pressure puts on your joints, it actually makes you more predisposed to injury.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Not everybody took steroids,
like anabolic
they took
steroids,
some type of PED to help them.
Right.
like what Andy Pettit said he took.
Yeah, like
example.
HGH. Yeah,
that would be something I could see a Tom Glavine, a Greg Maddux, all those type of guys.
Definitely Jeter,
who was more of their stuff. So like they didn't care about getting stronger. They just cared about being on the fucking mound, and everything. So it's like, okay, those are the people I could see, a David Cohn, type thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and whatever. But
it is
aneurysms, a side effect of steroids.
Right. Yeah. I mean, David says it's the fact that he threw. What did he throw in that ALDS the year before? Like 145 pitches against the Mariners or something like that.
Who's that, Coney?
Yeah, before Showalter finally took him out.
Yeah.
And his arm was like literally falling off.
I do wonder though, like it's weird, and I mean we can't go into this in detail now because we've already gone pretty long here, but with modern medicine and modern science and modern technology, just all of the most updated knowledge that we have about everything, it's surprising to me that the injury epidemic is as bad as it is, because it seems like knowledge of health and conditioning should be the best it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that it probably is in like a certain way, but part of all of that knowledge is also that people know how to throw 100 miles per hour all the time now. And like they know that they're going to make money doing that, and so they're going to do it. And the conditioning, as good as it may be, is not enough to prevent injuries if you're going to do that. But it still is pretty wild to me, because I feel like we must know more now than we ever have about the human body and about muscles and about consistency and health and blah, 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 longevity, all of this. And yet the injury stuff seems, at least in the last few years, to be like really, really horrible.
There's an NIH article that talks about how anabolic steroids can lead to problems with your aorta.
Oh,
including aortic dissection and aneurysms.
So if Barry Bonds drops dead, like when he's like 57,
I'm looking at Coney mainly, but
yeah. And Coney was one of those indulgers,
When did he talk so much about this? I don't remember this.
Well, I'm not saying specifically he's never talked about steroids, but he was on those Mets teams that, they were
cocaine.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He had his, battery arrest or whatever in like 1990. Something happened that would have been a much bigger deal today than it was in the 90s. But
to steal a Colbert joke, so the big joke on the internet for a while was that the Mets winning streak, they had a 7-game winning streak, and it was because Grimace threw out the first pitch.
Oh, yeah.
And then Colbert made a joke that like, we haven't seen a McDonald's mascot involved with the Mets since the Hamburglar was the Mets Coke dealer in the 80s. It was pretty good. There was a good graphic. I got a good laugh. So.
That is good.
He's so good.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, let's wrap this up.
Yep.
People are probably trying to get on with their day.
Sick of us.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Jeremy,
what shout outs do you have?
Jeremy, shout out. I hope you had a great time at the concert. Some of the stuff I saw just based on the Setlist FM notes was like during one of Frank's songs, Amigo the Devil came out in the middle of the crowd with signs that said like, "We love Frank."
Oh man, amazing!
And during Amigo's set, Frank's whole band joined him on stage dressed as like wacky inflatable waving tube bands.
Oh, I think I saw Jeremy posted that on his story. Wow. I think a short video of that.
I missed that.
Yeah, I asked him how the show was, but he hasn't responded yet because he's a fucking dick. But
I wonder, Jeremy, tell me and Ethan, did you go to Murphy's? Did you go to that weird little pub around the corner that smells like fish?
Is that Did we go and like sit in the corner? Am I thinking of the right place?
We got the cheap beer. Yeah. And it just smelled like fish. And just they had like a 1-person kitchen in the basement where guys kept bringing up dishes out of the basement. Yeah.
That was hilarious. Who were we with that day?
It was you and me, my friend Nick.
Oh yeah, he was cool. I liked him. Yeah.
My brother. Yeah, Nick's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And my brother.
And your brother. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I remember this place. Okay. Hilarious. But yeah, that's good. That's a good shout out. And I going to shout out G? I was maybe going to shout out G and say, get well soon on that hamstring, buddy.
Well, I'm going to shout out someone who actually might listen to this podcast.
That's Greg.
No, new follower I gained today. Jenny Merrill, the mother of Jackson Merrill, followed me on Twitter after I wrote such a great article about her son.
Oh, so, hilarious. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, shout out to Jenny.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
I'm sorry for anything I said. Hey, if you want to talk about beer, you know where to find me.
I think she's her bio said she's an elementary teacher, so
she definitely likes beer.
All right, boys. Well, until next time.
No.
Come on.
No.
Someone say it for me. I feel bad saying it all the time.
We are.
No.